The Week 7 preview episode of the Bears Talk Underground is brought to you by none other than MyBookie. You know it's that time of week again, guys. Preview episode, Thursday Night Football. We also got the NBA season kicking off. We got Major League Baseball with the League Championship Series, and the NHL is getting into full swing as well. So there is plenty to find, plenty to do at MyBookie. Just swing by MyBookie. They have some of the best reviews online. Their mobile site is easy to use. They've been in business for years, so you know you can trust them. And that is why I'm urging you to go to MyBookie. You win and they pay. Use the promo code BEARS25 and they will match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $1,000. And if you do it after 7 p.m., you get an extra $25 by using the promo code BEARS25. So there you have it, guys. MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. This week on the Bears Talk Underground, after losing a heartbreaker in overtime in Miami, our beloved returned home to Soldier Field. But in order to remain atop the NFC North, the Bears have to slay the beast known as the New England Patriots, who are coming into town on a 3-game winning streak and looking to keep their spot atop their own division. Will the Bears make a statement, and what will that statement be? Alec Shane from SB Nation's Pat's Pulpit joins us on the Week 7 preview episode of the Bears Talk Underground.
Hang up the telephone, I hear the dial tone, ringing out loud and I don't know.
We got New England on Sunday, folks. It's going to be our Are They For Real game when the Patriots come to town and take on our beloved Chicago Bears. What's going on, everybody? Larry D back for the Week 7 preview of the Bears Talk Underground, and there's a lot riding on this game. You know, if we lose, we're sitting at 500. When just a couple of weeks ago, we were 3-1. We lose our spot atop the division, and we're on a 2-game losing streak now with the streaking Jets coming into town the week after. So I mean, it's an important game that the Bears have on Sunday. Not only do they have an opportunity to make a statement about who they are as a team by bouncing back from a heartbreaking loss in Miami last Sunday, but making that statement against one of the best teams in the NFL over the last 2 decades. And, it's a hell of an opportunity that the Bears have sitting in front of us. Alec Shane from Pat's Pulpit and SB Nation will be joining us here in just a few minutes to help us preview that game. Not a whole lot to talk about as far as news and notes this week. Not a whole lot of headlines. Basically, the only headlines we're talking about this week thus far here in Thursday night. The one thing is somebody was asking the media, or the media was asking, I should say, Bill Belichick, his weekly press conference, and that guy's about as exciting as watching paint dry. 2 things that he said I found very interesting. One, somebody asked him about, if Khalil Mack kind of ranks in the same class with guys like the 2 guys that they mentioned were Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor. And Bill Belichick immediately said, I'm not putting anyone in Lawrence Taylor's class. Now, this is a guy that was a coach on the coaching staff with the Giants in the 80s when Taylor was drafted. And he was with Lawrence Taylor for many years. I think they won 2 Super Bowls together before Bill, or maybe was he around for the? Yeah, he was around for both in '86 and in '90. Belichick was around for both. I think he was defensive coordinator for both of those teams for the Giants. But this is a guy that watched Lawrence Taylor from day one into like the first decade of his career before he finally moved on to be head coach of the Browns in the early '90s there. But, saying that, I don't put anyone in Lawrence Taylor's class is like all due respect to a lot of great football players, but Lawrence Taylor's in a class of his own. So we'll see if Khalil Mack can have anything to say about that come this Sunday, which is going to be something that we'll talk about here in just a moment. As far as Khalil Mack's status for Sunday, I'm personally not worried at the moment. I think if we get to the Saturday walkthrough and we see doubtful as his playing status, then we'll get a little nervous about what might happen on Sunday. But for now, I'm cool. But the other thing that was interesting that I heard Belichick say, and I don't know if he's saying this to just build up the Bears or, or what have you. But he's like, when I watch these guys on film, I see a 5-0 team. And if you want to break it down to its simplest form, I think Malcolm Fell, one of my loyal listeners from over the pond in the UK, mentioned on Facebook the other day that it makes him sick or pisses him off, one of the two, that the Bears are a dropped interception, a la Kyle Fuller week 1 against the Packers, and a missed field goal from being 5-0. And he's absolutely right. I mean, if you break it down into its simplest terms, that's all it is. Two bad plays. Kyle Fuller dropping that interception that hit him right in the breadbasket. One play before the big touchdown run that gave, or the catch and run that gave the Packers the lead for good, and then Cody Parkey missing that 53-yarder against the Dolphins. Obviously a low percentage kick, 53 yards, but he had plenty of leg. He just hooked it to he just pushed it to the right. But yeah, 2 plays. If you break it down into its simplest form, 2 plays away from being a 5-0 team, and imagine the confidence that this football team would have going into this matchup with the Patriots at 5-0. I mean, that's amazing. But yeah, so I mean, that's what Belichick said. He's like, I see a football team that's a couple of plays away from being 5-0. That's what I see when I watch these guys on film. So maybe he's blowing smoke, or maybe he does have a lot of respect for what the Bears have done and are capable of. So, he's smart enough of a coach to know that what we've put on the field the first 4 weeks of the season is probably more likely the team that he'll see on Sunday, because a lot of the factors that played into what could have gone wrong for the Bears this past Sunday, the heat, the layoff, those awful goddamn orange jerseys, things like that aren't going to be a factor on Sunday. We're going to be wearing our beautiful navy blues, just I think our regular ones. We're not wearing the throwbacks yet. I think we wait for Minnesota before we wear the throwbacks, which are way better than the orange ones. I don't give a damn what anybody says. And it's also supposed to only be about 49 degrees at kickoff on Sunday. So the heat, not going to be a factor. I mean, the weather shouldn't be a factor at all, because New England is obviously a northeastern team, so they get the relatively same weather this time of year as well. But it's just, the weather isn't going to be a factor because it's not going to be beating down 88 degrees with 70% humidity or any of that kind of madness. But and like I said, we won't be wearing those awful jerseys. We won't be wearing them. We'll wear them again at some point again this year. We'll probably lose because those things are awful and they're cursed. They're terrible, terrible jerseys. Every time I see a picture of the Miami game, not only am I reminded of that loss, but I'm reminded of how terrible we looked in those goddamn jerseys. They're awful. They are absolutely, I don't get it. I don't get why you people like that. Or I think I mentioned this before. Like, I can see how you like the combo as, to wear around. The orange does go good with a pair of blue jeans or something like that. I get that. But to say that you like it on the Bears with those navy blue helmets and the white pants, it's a bad look. It is such a bad look. Just awful. Just awful. Anyway, I'm done now. But so those were the 2 things that Belichick mentioned in his press conference earlier this week. I think it was yesterday on Wednesday. And the only other thing that's kind of piquing anybody's interest right now is the injury report for the Bears. 5 guys on the list this week. Prince Amukamara, limited with the hamstring. He started last week against Miami, then left the game with the hamstring again, so I guess he tweaked it or something. Marcus Cooper didn't practice on Wednesday, was limited today, also with a hamstring injury. Eric Kush, that was nursing that neck injury last week, was limited today and yesterday on Wednesday. Allen Robinson, limited on Wednesday, didn't practice today, but Matt Nagy said that was more of a precaution with Allen Robinson, not putting him out there on that hammy today. And then Khalil Mack, who suffered the ankle injury but played through it on Sunday, hasn't practiced yet on Wednesday or Thursday. Like I said, I'll reserve any kind of nervousness for Saturday when the designations come out, doubtful, probable, that kind of thing. So for right now, I'm not all that worried about Mac resting an ankle injury right now. So, I mean, it is, after all, an ankle injury. If it was serious, we would have heard about it by now. Trust me. There's no way they're keeping that secret when it comes to Khalil Mack. On the Patriots side, you hear me talk about it a bit with Alec Shane. There's like a 10, 11 guys on this list, and I asked Alec about it. With Belichick being one of the biggest gamesmen the game has ever seen, and definitely one of the biggest gamesmen in the NFL right now, the number of names on this list, how legit is it? Is it just Belichick putting guys on there because he's got a hangnail or something like that, or there are actual legitimate injuries on the list? He mentions names like Malcolm Brown, the defensive lineman, has been limited with the knee injury. Marcus Cannon, that's a big one. He said he's going to keep his eye on Marcus Cannon. He's got concussion, starting right tackle. That's the guy that's supposed to be blocking Khalil Mack the majority of the time. He's been out with a concussion. He has yet to practice so far this week. Julian Edelman's nursing a heel injury. He's been limited so far. Josh Gordon, hamstring, has been limited both days this week. Gronkowski nursing a ankle injury, but I don't think you have anything to worry about there as far as him not playing on Sunday. Sony Michel, their rookie running back, is nursing a knee injury, but he's been playing through that. He suffered that during the preseason. And I think that's it as far as highlights. But we've also got about 5-6 other guys, all limited. Anyone who's on the injury list has been limited in practice both days this week, aside from Marcus Cannon, who hasn't practiced at all. So that's something to keep your eye on this Sunday. Who's going to be lined up at right tackle? Will it be Marcus Cannon? Will it be his backup? And, how much will we make that backup pay for being out there on Sunday? So that's pretty much it as far as news and notes. I mean, nothing really else has been going on this week. It's basically been the Khalil Mack ankle watch and what has Belichick had to say about our beloved Chicago Bears. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to move aside and bring in our good friend Alec Shane from SB Nation's Pat's Pulpit to help us preview Week 7, Bears against the Patriots. Week number 7 has the Bears returning home, where we're currently undefeated, to take on the New England Patriots, a much ballyhooed game, especially with the start that the Bears have had. This is kind of a are they for real game for the Bears when the Patriots, Tom Brady and company, come to town. And to help us preview this game from Pat's Pulpit, we got Alec Shane. Alec, welcome back to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me.
So, Alec, let's talk about the Patriots because, as usual, I mean this in all sincerity, we've had our annual "Are the Patriots done?" phase already. They lost that game to Detroit on Sunday Night Football, so yet again they have somewhat of an embarrassing loss on national television, a la their big Monday night loss to Kansas City on a few years back, and they're 1-2 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, and
Yep.
It's like, okay, Brady's turning 90 next year, and Belichick's already collecting Social Security, so this thing's got to end at some point. Maybe the writing's on the wall, and then sure enough, they've won 3 in a row and are in firm grasp of the lead in the AFC, because even though they're 4-2 with the Dolphins, they beat the hell out of Miami a few weeks ago. So they are technically in first place, and but here we are. We've had this meltdown already with the Patriots and the whole "are they done" conversation, and yet here we are on a 3-game winning streak, and no one's worried about the Patriots anymore.
No, it's funny. Every September the Patriots go 2-2 or so, 3-1, and there's always that one game every year since about 2011. So they just drop a game they just have no business losing at Jacksonville in the heat. That was a potential AFC Championship preview again. I'm not going to knock the Patriots for losing one on the road to Jacksonville, who's a good defensive team. But the loss in Detroit, especially the 2 losses in a row, it's very rare the Patriots lose 2 in a row. So them to lose like they did obviously has people shook up about it, but it's amazing how nobody ever learns, and we're so reactionary as just a population. Whenever something happens, it's always the immediate aftermath we tend to cling to. But the Patriots go 2-2 every September. Belichick always says the season starts in earnest in October and November, and in October and November they're always very good. They've gotten their act together. They've figured out their there are various issues. They still have a long way to go. There's still a lot of things that they need to work on, but the ship's been righted for sure. Very big statement game against Kansas City this past Sunday night. Really, really big victory there. And I think they're starting to round the corner and being the Patriots that everyone knows they can be and will be.
So let's talk about that Kansas City game for a bit, because as impressive as it was to see the Patriots answer the call and beat a tough team like Kansas City, who's been a juggernaut so far in the first 5-6 weeks of the season, it was a 43-40 game in which obviously you guys gave up 40 points. Is the defense any kind of concern this year? Because, I mean, you gave up big points to Detroit, and 40 plus points to Mahomes last Sunday. What's going on with the defense that's very un-Belichick like for the defense to get, giving up the points like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And especially if you look at this past game, it really was a tale of two halves. I mean, the Patriots took a commanding lead into the locker room at halftime. It was 24-9 at the half. And then KC came out. They scored a touchdown, a field goal, a touchdown, and a touchdown on their next possessions. And the Patriots couldn't stop anything. It is worth mentioning, however, 4 of those touchdowns came on short fields. There was the Brady fumble, which led to a touchdown. There was the 97-yard kick return, which led to a touchdown. Then there were those 2 plays that Kareem Hunt and Tyreek Hill just broke for 68 and 75 yards, I believe, are the numbers. So other than those kind of big home run plays, which the Patriots have been known to give up, the defense actually played pretty well. They had some good schemes. They threw a lot of different looks at Patrick Mahomes. Their goal was to show him a lot of disguise blitzes, a lot of disguise coverages, force the young quarterback to diagnose defenses incorrectly. It led to that Dante Hightower pick. It led to the Duron Harmon pick toward the end of the first half. So overall, the defense played pretty well, but it's a little bit skewed because of those big plays. And what those big plays are is they're asking Patriots secondary to cover Tyreek Hill for more than 3 or 4 seconds, which you just can't do. The breakdowns come in the secondary and the safety position, but I think those are kind of those oopses and those miscommunications and those my bad that just happen on occasion. But teams like the Chiefs will make you really pay for it. So yes, 40 points is no good, but if you want to look at it objectively, it wasn't as bad as the score indicated.
Sure. I mean, and I feel the same way about everyone freaking out over the Bears giving up 380 to Brock Osweiler. And I was like, really? Yeah. He got a third of those passing yards on those 2 5-yard passes to Albert Wilson that turned into 60-yard touchdowns. So, did he really throw for 380, or did his receivers give him 380 yards? Because there was a lot of that going on Sunday. I mean, the tackling was just terrible by the Bears on defense. There was a lot of yak yards going on there. I mean, maybe it's just sour grapes on my part, but I don't really feel like Brock Osweiler carved the Bears up for 380. More so that their receivers did a great job of getting themselves into space and getting the football up the field, and our defense and our secondary and such had a terrible day with arm tackles and missing tackles and taking bad angles and everything against the Dolphins. So I really feel where you're coming from with that, because the same thing happened to us week 1. And against the Dolphins as well. It was the big plays that ended up hurting us. Week 1 against Green Bay, we had them in check for 3 quarters, and then Aaron Rodgers comes in the 4th quarter, and it's 3 big pass plays, and boom, they've got the lead, and somehow we lose the game. Same thing with the Dolphins game on Sunday. It goes up on the sheet as points scored against the defense. It definitely racks up on you when those big plays come in like that.
No, it really does. And not all yards and points are created equal. Like I said, if your defense is a short field to defend, to give up a score, it really doesn't mean as much as if a team leads a 12-play, 83-yard drive that ends in a touchdown, takes 8 minutes off the clock. Those are the drives you really don't want to see as a defense. And the Patriots are good at that. One thing they do that's very frustrating as a fan, but it works, is they don't really worry about yards between the 20s. From the touchback to the 20-yard line that they're defending, they have no problem giving up yards in chunks. They tend to stiffen up in the red zone and force field goals. And since their offense is getting a real groove on, they're now getting ready to score touchdowns. And if they can trade touchdowns for field goals, they'll take it every single time. And they'll round the corner, and they'll be fine. They always are. It's interesting to hear you talk about the Bears defense kind of giving up the big plays because, the shook the world up, that Khalil Mack acquisition you guys had. And you figured that was going to be just this corner that was turned. And do you think it's for you guys, I guess, from someone who has not watched a whole lot of Bears football, this season because you guys haven't been in prime time just too much just yet. Is it a scenario where the defense can't protect the lead? Are they relying too heavily on their pass rush? The secondary is kind of letting them down. What do you think the biggest issue is the Bears defense is causing these late drives to lose the game?
Well, week one, it was the Bears taking their foot off the gas. It happened on both sides of the ball. In the first half, we were super aggressive on defense. We got after Aaron Rodgers. Hell, we knocked him out of the game. Right. You know, we knocked him out of the game with that knee injury that's still kind of bugging him now. On offense, we stopped being aggressive and playing conservatively. And then in the defense, like I said, we stopped getting after him. Even with a one-legged Aaron Rodgers in the backfield, it seemed like we went more of a prevent thing. And they ended up catching us in some bad spots, and that's where those big plays came from. Last week against the Dolphins, it was a combination of, Adam Gase scheming to get the ball out of Osweiler's hands as quickly as humanly possible. I mean, that's the other thing about, people saying that he carved us up for 380 yards. It's not like he was standing back there in the pocket for 8 seconds and then just finding wide open receivers. He was getting the ball out of his hands, kind of negating the pass rush. And then that heat, man. I really feel like the heat was a much bigger factor than the Bears, than Nagy and everybody else is letting on, that it did affect the defense on Sunday. I really do. And, I really feel that that's what I mean, because we had it was 21-13 going into the fourth quarter, and they did all of their damage in the fourth quarter with those 2 big touchdown plays to Albert Wilson. He just outran a tired defense, and the first thing that goes when you're tired is your technique. So all the form tackling, getting your feet underneath you so that you're in the best position, that all went out the window in the fourth quarter, and we just didn't have it. It just wasn't there. But the 3 weeks in between, the 3 weeks that we won, Arizona, Seattle, Tampa Bay, we were opportunistic. We're flying all over the field. We gave up 17 to Seattle, 14 to Arizona, and then 10 to Tampa Bay. I think that's more typical of the defense that we usually see. And then last week was whether it was rust or playing on the road, fatigue from the heat or whatever, I think that's what contributed more than anything to what happened to the Bears and why they were giving up the big plays. It was just the Dolphins biding their time until we had no gas left in the tank, man. It was crazy to watch.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One area that Tom Brady struggles down Florida too. He's got a pretty bad record down there. So there's something about that heat and playing, especially in the New England area, the northern area, as the October hits and the weather starts to turn, gets a little colder. You're used to practicing in the cold weather. Suddenly go down and have to play in the humidity. It really takes it out of you. And as you talked about a little earlier, it's very important to take into account different factors. It's very easy to look at the score or look at the stat line and just see things and make judgments. But there are little nuances of every single game you got to take into account.
Yeah, I mean, if we play the Dolphins week 1 when it's still warm and humid in the Midwest in Chicago, maybe things are a little bit differently because we're experiencing that, practicing during the week and so on and so forth. But the week of weather that led to the Bears going to Miami, it was in the 50s, and overnight it was in the 30s, below freezing and things like that. Then they go down there and it's 88 and 80% humidity, and the air is sticking to you like you're glistening just standing there. I mean, it can really bear down on you, if it gets bad enough. So I definitely think that the heat was more of a factor than they really want to let on. And I guess they're not trying not to make excuses as to
right.
That's why it happened, but. I don't think anybody would blame them if they'd be like, yeah, man, that heat was a bitch. It really did affect it. The only person that I've heard say anything about the heat was Bobby Massey, the right tackle for the Bears, who said that he lost 12 pounds during the game.
Damn.
And I've heard some people cry BS on that. It's like, but dude, he weighs 330. Yeah. There's a lot more water swimming around in this guy for him to lose 12 pounds. It's definitely possible. Yeah. So I could definitely see that happening. But, when I was just looking at some little factoids before we got started here, and one that I found interesting, and I hope for my sake that it continues, is that in all 6 games that the Patriots have played in so far, the home team has won.
Yeah, the Patriots are 0-2 on the road this year. Again, they're in Jacksonville in the Heat, and then Detroit was just a stinker. They're 4-0 at home. They're obviously a much better home team than they are a road team, and I think this will be their first true road test of the quote unquote new Patriots, the October Patriots, where they're historically very good.
Right.
It's tough because Chicago's a tough place to play. I'm not sure what the weather forecast will be like for Sunday, but it'll probably be cool and crisp, which is where Tom Brady likes it. But there's a good defense. There's a good defensive front. I don't know. I think this will. This up or down the schedule is very difficult. The Patriots play 6 of their next 8 on the road.
Yeah.
And so the games they should have won, they won. And now it's really time to get a signature kind of convincing road win. The Bears are 3-2. I know they're coming off a bad loss, but they're a different team at home, as most teams are. So I think this is kind of the beginning of a good road test for them. And I think if they can get off to a good start and get a good win under their belt this coming Sunday, it should bode well for the next couple of games.
Yeah, I was. But then the factoid that came just after it was that Brady is 7-0 against quarterbacks that are 15 years younger than him or something like that. I was like, what a crazy random stat, but there it is. You know, he's 7-0 for guys that are 15 years younger or more than him. Like, he just beat Mahomes, who's I think 23 or 24, whatever. So there's a 16, 17-year age gap between those two, and Trubisky's only 24, so we got a 17-year gap between these guys. So it's like, which one of these stats is going to win out on Sunday?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's really not Brady, right? It's Belichick. It's Belichick's They're undefeated against these quarterbacks. And what he does, and you saw it on Sunday night against the Chiefs, is he likes to throw really complex, confusing defensive fronts and give these young quarterbacks who haven't had a lot of reps in the league, through no fault of their own, they're just young, give them these kind of really confusing looks they haven't seen before and force them to misdiagnose the defense. And that happens a lot. And then the really good quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes could kind of figure it out as the game went on. And the ones who are still learning and still kind of coming up as NFL players get completely dominated by it. I don't know which guy Trubisky is. I like Mitch Trubisky. He seems like he's a smart guy. He's very mobile. He makes good decisions. I'm not sure how good he is at diagnosing a defense and a lot of disguised blitzes, but I guess we'll find out.
And that's one of my main concerns going into the game is the wizardry of Belichick himself. I was listening to a different podcast, a Bears podcast, a friend of mine, Lauren Cox, puts together, and he had Mike Schofield, one of the two. He does the Locked On Patriots podcast, and he was saying that one of the things that Belichick is the best at is taking your strength and then basically attacking your strength, turning your strength into a weakness. And coming into the game, one of Mahomes' favorite targets was Travis Kelce, and they spent the entire first half essentially triple teaming Travis Kelce to completely take him out of the game, forcing Mahomes to go somewhere else with the football. And that's where the success came in the second half, because they started using Kelce as a decoy in the second half, and that's where you get your big plays from Tyreek Hill and things like that in the second half. They made the adjustment in the second half. So I guess even more so, halftime adjustment is what's going to win or lose the game for the Bears, especially if it's close at halftime.
No, absolutely. And Belichick's really good at halftime adjustments. It's what he does well. I'll be very curious to see what his game plan is against the Bears, who the number one weapon he tries to take away is. I like your running game a lot. I like Jordan Howard. I think he's pretty legit. He's a big guy. He's about 225, I think.
Yeah, he's a thick guy.
Yeah, and I think if I'm Belichick on Sunday, I am making the running game an absolute non-factor. I'm putting the entire game on the back of Mitch Trubisky and forcing him to make decisions that he doesn't want to have to make and forcing him to make mistakes. I don't know if he gets rattled, but I think we'll find out. You saw Dante Hightower, who's a middle inside linebacker, lined out way out wide following Kelce around. So they do not care what they have to do to take away that number one weapon. And that's kind of how Belichick likes to operate. And if I was a betting man, I'd say the running game will be their focus on Sunday, and it will try and force Trubisky to get the ball to his receivers. I don't know if there are any receivers on the Bears that really, really scare me. I like Allen Robinson. I like Taylor Gabriel, but I don't think there's really any kind of stud number ones. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. I don't want to misdiagnose anybody, but I feel like it's going to be the passing game that is forced to win the game. And if Mitch Trubisky wins it on Sunday, he'll have definitely earned it.
Yeah, it's more of a they really spread the ball around in the passing game. But the last couple of weeks, Taylor Gabriel, Tariq Cohen, those are the guys that are hitting big in the passing game. So if I'm Belichick and I do put the game in Trubisky, I load up the box and take Jordan Howard out of the football game, the passing game, the guy that you have to identify where he is on the field at all times in the passing game is Tariq Cohen, because he's the guy that's been, out of the backfield. He's doing some of those out and up patterns, and he's wide open down the sideline because there's a linebacker chasing him. You're going to lose that battle every single time. He's basically Darren Sproles is who he is. He's dangerous coming out of the backfield. And if they ever run the football with him, they're probably going to try to get him to the outside, because if he turns the corner, he's going to get at least 5 yards, if not more. So he's the guy that you want to take out of the passing game is Tariq Cohen. Taylor Gabriel, he's more the big play guy, because he had a catch for 50-something yards and a 47-yard catch against the Dolphins on Sunday. And Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, they're kind of hot and cold as far as who Trubisky likes to go to in a particular game.
Well, I'll tell you, that does not make me happy to hear that, Larry, because one area the Patriots have gotten gashed year after year after year is catching running backs out of the backfield. On the wheel routes, in the flat, finding a mismatch against a linebacker. Kareem Hunt did it against the Patriots this last Sunday. If there's a shifty, elusive running back who's good in the shotgun and you can go out on a wheel route, that's burned the Patriots for years, and coverage linebacker continues to be a real weak spot of this Patriots defense. So I wouldn't be curious to see a guy like maybe safety Patrick Chung assigned to Tariq Cohen, or maybe a Deron Harmon with Jonathan Jones, their slot corner. If he's that violent and explosive, I can see them actually dedicating a corner to him and allowing their cornerbacks, Stephon Gilmore, Jason McCourty, to be on an island against the other guys.
Yeah, I was hearing that Belichick likes to run a 3-2-6 formation.
He does.
That's 6 defensive backs, 2 linebackers, 3 guys up front, and that sounds like the perfect defense to play against the Bears, especially when Tariq Cohen is on the field. To have those 6 DBs out there, you got a lot more faster guys out there, and Patrick Chung sounds like a good candidate to mirror Tariq Cohen, where he goes, I go kind of thing, to try to neutralize what he's capable of, because he's definitely a shifty, like he is Darren Sproles. He's 5'6", and he's one of those little thick guys, got that low center of gravity, so he's not the easiest person to tackle, but he is also one of the fastest guys on the team. It's like him and Taylor Gabriel are 1 and 2 as far as being the speed guys on the football team. So he's definitely somebody that you want to key on the offensive side when it comes to what the Bears could be capable of in the passing game. He's not so much the favorite target of Trubisky, but he's reliable in the passing game more than it. He's got great hands. So somebody need to watch out for.
How do the Bears use their tight ends? Are they pass catchers? They red zone threats, or do they use more as chip blockers and package guys?
Well, that's the thing. They are more like package guys. Trey Burton is more your receiving receiver. I really haven't seen him do much blocking, but when Deion Sims is on the field, you guaranteed he's going to be blocking somebody. He does go out for passes and things like that, but that's not what we're paying him to do. He's blocking up front, and if we're in a spot where we've got 3 tight ends on the field, which is very rare for a Matt Nagy offense, it's going to be Ben Broniker, who ironically was the intended receiver for that interception that Trubisky threw last week. I don't know what the hell he was looking at there, but yeah. So I mean, it's they're package guys. If so and so's on the field, you can pretty much determine what's probably going down. I mean, Burton's on the field for pass and run because he run out of the shotgun a lot. So Burton's going to be on the field almost every down. But if you see Sims out there, you can probably bank we're probably running the football.
Interesting.
So,
if Mark Helfrich's your offensive coordinator, right?
Yeah.
If you're Mark Helfrich, do the Bears run a complex offense? Is it pretty basic? And how are you going to attack this Patriots defense if you're Helfrich? What's your main strategy for Sunday?
Well, I think what the Bears are going to try to do is I think what they're going to try to do is what the Chiefs ended up doing when they realized that Travis Kelce wasn't going to be an option for them, and that is spread the ball around and not always getting it to Cohen, not always looking for Trey Burton, not always looking for Gabriel, and try to get somebody else involved to try to, so that the Patriots aren't focusing on one guy like the Chiefs did in the first half when they completely took Travis Kelce out of the equation for Mahomes. That's the one thing that I like about our passing game is that we that Trubisky doesn't appear to have a favorite target, somebody that he's always looking for, somebody he's always throwing to. So, that's going to be hard to judge when you're looking at the film for the Bears. And I would think that we're going to try to run as much as possible so as to not put the ball in Trubisky's hands or to leave it in his hands, because we trust the kid. I believe that. But, I think that we're probably going to try to run the ball early coming out, especially if you guys give us the 3-2-6 front running against 5 guys. I would assume that we'd probably choose the R in RPO on those plays, especially if Jordan Howard's on the field. So that's what I would do, or what I think the Bears would like to do. But it's Nagy that calls the play. Helfrich is just helping them scheme everything. So tell me something. I've always wondered this about the Patriots, and I'm surprised we didn't talk about it over the summer, but who the hell is coaching your offensive line?
Offensive line coach. I'm glad you asked. His name is Dante Scarnecchia. He has been in the NFL since time memoriam. He is right where he wants to be. He's been an offensive line coach with the Patriots since before that. I think 30-plus years of coaching the Patriots. He's been offered several head coaching jobs, has gladly turned them all down. He retired for a year or two, and then he came back because he was bored and he's a football lifer. And he's just an absolute animal and one of the best in the business. And Belichick actually refers to him as the assistant head coach. He's such a staple of the team, and what he's been able to bring to the table is nothing short of remarkable. So, Dante Scarnecchia is the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, because one of the things that I've always marveled at when I watch the Patriots is that Brady can stand back there all day long if he wants to, and no matter who the Patriots have. I mean, there's one of the things you've never really heard in all this time that Brady's been the quarterback for the Patriots is that the offensive line is terrible. That Brady's constantly under pressure, and that's why the Patriots just barely made 500 this year or anything like that. The Patriots have a streak of how many years in a row, 10, 11-plus wins and everything, and it's due in part greatly to that offensive line and all the time that Brady has to find people to pick his opponents apart.
Yeah, absolutely true. I think the Patriots had a weaker than usual offensive line, in 2015 when Scarnecchia is in retirement at that point. A lot of that, though, was just they were really banged up. There were injuries in 2015, and they had a really hard time fielding guys cohesively, and they had to kind of mix and match. And I think of all the units on the field, you need to have consistency in your offensive line, have that chemistry. And if you remember the AFC Championship game against the Broncos in Denver, Brady was on his ass the entire game because they just couldn't stop anybody. But since then, they brought Scarnecchia back. They really focused on it. They've been drafting guards and tackles high in the draft. Belichick loves to draft linemen high, and he finds these guys that just fit the system. Nate Solder left in free agency, signed a $60 million contract with the Giants. They brought in Trent Brown, who no one had really heard of. He's making $2 or $3 million this year, if that, and he's an absolute monster. So he finds these guys that not only play well, but they learn under Scarnecchia, they fit the system, and they work with the kind of offense Tom Brady runs. Belichick's great at knowing that there's not as many superstars as there are in the league as there are good players who can be coached. So that's what he looks for, especially in the O-line, because if you don't have a good O-line, you're not going to do well. It's just kind of that's one of the more underrated positions in the entire league.
Yeah, it really is, and it just, like I said, for years, watching the Patriots, you see Brady standing back there. He's standing back there straight-legged, just scanning the field, looking to find somebody open, and you're like, Jesus Christ, anybody can do what it's like, not to try to take anything away from Brady, but it's like you put anybody back there, because I remember the conversation at one point being, imagine how good a quarterback Rex Grossman could have been if he was standing behind that offensive line. He had 9 seconds to throw the ball back there. I mean, he could find anybody open. The DBs are going to run out of gas eventually, or somebody's going to make a wrong turn, predict that they're going to cut this way and they cut that way, and you leave your receiver open when you've been waiting back there for 6 seconds. I mean, the offensive line, seemingly just about anybody they put up there is going to succeed for them. So you got to give credit to the guy coaching them, because that has not been an issue, except, like you said, in about 2015. And even then, it took one of the best defenses ever to take them down in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, it's funny. There are always these quote-unquote down years for England where, like, one of their positional groupings is really weak, or they're having a lot of trouble managing injuries, or there's something going wrong with the team. And those are the years they lose in the AFC Championship game, right? Mm-hmm. Those are, like, their down years, come to, like, playoff losses. It's such a weird shift in expectations for this team, where they're either going to win the Super Bowl or like their season's a disaster, and they only made it to the divisional round, right? That's like a massive season for a lot of people. But just the way the team's been so successful for so long, we just totally shifted our paradigm of how we judge the Patriots, and we find these things that and I'm as guilty as anybody of this as a Patriots fan for 30 plus years. You find these things to kind of pick apart with New England because you're just so used to them winning. It's easier to do it that way.
Yeah, I shudder to think what the NFL in whole is going to look like when Belichick finally hangs it up, because he truly is one of the true geniuses that the NFL has ever seen. He always seems to be able to find that one thing that he can exploit on a team that's going to put the Patriots in the best position to win. The Patriots have won so many different ways over the years with so many different people, and that's the other thing. Aside from like Brady, is there anybody still on the team now that was on the team when he first won the Super Bowl back in 2001? Brady's probably it. The only other guy still in the league is Vinatieri, and he's with the Colts now. I mean, there's not a lot of guys still around, and so it's not like he's been using the same guys for 15 years. Hell, he has a reputation for getting rid of them before their expiration date. Richard Seymour, Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy. The list is long, actually, when it comes to those kind of players for Belichick, but it always turns out to be the right move. And when that mind finally leaves the NFL, I'm really interested to see what the outcome is going to be.
Yeah, me too, man. It's funny, as much as people hate the Patriots, and I totally get it, and I would hate them too were I not a Patriots fan. The league kind of needs the Patriots, right? They're the big bad guy. They're the big villain. Everyone loves a good villain. They're kind of the evil empire of the NFL that wants to take down every single year. And the NFL landscape is going to be a very weird place when Brady and Belichick are either separated or Belichick retires or whatever it is. Once that duo is no more, and it's going to happen probably in the next 5 years, right? Brady can't play forever. He's going to, I think at least. I mean, who knows with this guy, but it's going to be a very interesting place. And I feel like as much as people hate seeing Tom Brady right now, his first year not in the league is going to be a very kind of dull year because there's not going to be a villain anymore. And it's just a bunch of teams that are all kind of good. And I feel like the AFC and NFC right now, there are maybe 2 teams in each division that are really, really good. And then the rest of the teams are just okay, and they're playing games, and we'll see what happens come late December. But the Patriots are just like that one uniting factor. Whenever they make a Super Bowl, there's a very small pocket of the northeast of the country that's rooting for them, and the rest of them is really rooting for any other team. So I don't know. I obviously I love it, but I'm with you, man. It's gonna be a very interesting time when that guy hangs it up. The other problem is I don't know what's gonna do. Belichick's not really a retire and lie in a hammock and drink margaritas kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's a football lifer. His dad was coaching at Navy, and he's been there since he was a ball boy at age 15 for the Colts. And so I can't imagine him ever stepping away from the game completely. It might be like a Bill Parcells in Miami scenario, or becomes like a coordinator or like a VP of operations, something like that. I can't see him ever fully stepping away from the game. What I'd love to see happen, just one game, like a color commentator in the box. I would love to see that for just one game. See how like him and Rex Ryan would make an amazing, announcing duo.
You think Belichick could handle speaking for 3 hours?
No.
I mean,
it'll be a disaster, but it would be
so
funny.
A disaster. It would.
Yeah.
It would have to be like a preseason game or something like that.
Totally.
Just some throwaway game no one cares about, but everyone's tuning in because
100%.
Seriously, Belichick's going to call this one? I definitely have to watch that. I hate the Patriots, but I'm not missing that. There's no way I'm not watching that game. So
yeah.
But what do you think is more likely to happen first? That they separate, or do they leave together?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm really worried about with Tom Brady is I think he's already kind of cemented his legacy. He's the greatest of all time. If you want to argue Montana, I'll listen. But I think there's nothing he can really do to make him any more than the greatest of all time. But the problem is he's just such a maniac with his training regimen and his mentality. And with these players, their body shuts down before their heart does and before their mind does.
Right.
And he's going to maybe win one more Super Bowl if all goes well. And then it'll be time for him to move on, but he won't be ready to give it up yet. He won't be able to walk away from the game. And I can see him going to San Francisco, where he grew up, for one last kind of West Coast ride. and just really not having it. Like, you watched Peyton Manning his last year in the league. It was really sad to see.
It was.
He was a ghost out there. He was a corpse. He's one of the all-time greats. You know, he's a blast to watch. And as a certified Peyton Manning hater, I can admit that. You don't want to see your golden boy quarterback just limping along for one more season because you know to hang it up. And I really can see that happening with Brady because he's so competitive, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, it would be, you know, it's going to be something especially if Brady leaves New England before Belichick retires. Like, I mean, because you hear all the time, like, this was supposed to be the year where things melted down because this is the year that the offseason it came out that basically all is not right in paradise, and, you know, they're at each other's throats. They won't talk to each other or whatever the hell the problem is, and no one's really kind of remarking on the fact that it took this long for that to happen. You know, that it's been 17, 18 years that now there's finally some kinks in the armor, you know, kind of thing. It's like, oh, it only took 17 years, you know, in the NFL, that's a lifetime. But
No, it is.
And it just it would be very interesting to see an NFL where Brady and Belichick aren't together. So I often wonder what that would look like and what that might do to Brady's legacy, because my contention with the whole greatest of all time thing is that I don't know, like, my argument for Brady not being the greatest of all time is how the Patriots have succeeded when Brady wasn't there. They went 11-5 without him the year that he hurt his knee week 1 in 2008. With Garoppolo and Jacoby Brissett, they went 3-1 the 4 games that he got suspended for Deflategate and things like that. I think the Patriots would be fine without Brady. Would Brady be fine without Belichick is the real question. What would happen to his legacy if he went somewhere else and laid a dud with his next team?
No, I mean, that's the argument I've heard before. My counter argument to that is two things. I'll say one thing. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is a legit quarterback. I think he's a solid starter, and so that was a good player that went in there and won those games. Brissett, I think they got lucky in the Texans game. Yeah. They muffed a couple of punts, and there was the defense played anyway. But
they still shut him out, though. Yeah, I mean, that was the other thing. Got a lot of help from the defense.
Yeah. The 2008 thing is always the big one. They went 11-5 with Matt Castle, who went on to do jack squat elsewhere. But if you remember 2008, they came off an undefeated 2007 season where they lost to the Super Bowl. They were playing the AFC West that year, which was terrible. They were playing a terrible AFC East. The Dolphins had gone 1-15 the year before. They still split with the Jets, with the Brett Favre led Jets that year. Any team that was actually decent, they played. Like the Colts, they lost to. The Steelers destroyed them. The Chargers beat them. The Broncos beat them. Any team that was basically over 500, they lost to that season. I'll be very curious if we could go back and if Brady was playing in 2018, if they didn't go undefeated again. It was definitely possible. They had a really, really weak schedule. Not that Belichick worked miracles, and that's a very legitimate argument you have about what they did with Matt Castle. But I think that, you know, the real kicker is Belichick has 0 playoff wins without Tom Brady. And that's how we kind of measure anything in the world, is like, how do you do when it really matters? And Belichick is great in the regular season. He's won 0 without Tom Brady. And it's tough because you look at every great quarterback who's ever played, they always have a great coach with them, right? You got Montana and Bill Walsh and Dan Marino and Don Shula and Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman. So they're always kind of married, these coaches and quarterbacks. So it's really hard to have the debate one without the other, because it's hard to find a quarterback. I can't really think of one off the top of my head who didn't have a really good coach alongside him, you know?
Well, Peyton Manning and John Fox, you can argue that one. I mean, you know. But then again, when they won the Super Bowl, it was Gary Kubiak in charge, not John Fox. So you can make that argument, because he definitely didn't show us that he was worth the 3 years that the Bears gave John Fox, that's for sure. But it was a necessary evil, because we wouldn't be where we are today without it. But to pivot back to the game on Sunday, I saw that, I mean, aside from the panic that I saw when it's like, hey, Khalil Mack didn't practice today, like, what? So, you know, of course I had to go to the bathroom and clean my shorts after I read that. But I saw that there are 11 guys on the Patriot injury list. Now, is that because this is Belichick, and he's one of the best gamesmen that there is in the NFL. He will tell you nothing, but he'll put some of the most innocent injuries on the injury report. So, I mean, are there 11 legit hurt guys on there, or is this Belichick just being super honest and screwing with the rest of the NFL?
Chris Hogan, the receiver, is dealing with a thigh injury. Marcus Cannon, who's a really big loss, our right tackle, is dealing with in concussion protocol right now.
Right.
If he can't go, backup right tackle, Adrian Waddle is going to be getting the start, and him against Khalil Mack is going to make me change my shorts. So
Right.
that's the one. That's the one I'm watching right now.
Sure,
really closely.
sure.
The rest, there's not really anything too serious. I think the injury report's an absolute joke, to be honest with you. But Chris Hogan's one to monitor. Marcus Cannon definitely one to monitor. Other than that, they're pretty healthy for the most part.
Yeah, and when I saw that, I was like, okay, well, with other teams, that might make you perk your ears up a little bit. Really, 11 guys, wow. And, it's like, but it's Belichick. He probably put somebody on there with a hangnail just to screw with the NFL.
Right.
And they're, he's the most – the guy really loves to thumb it back to the NFL sometimes, man. He really does. But this is also what Belichick does. He's always competing one way or another, and to have you worry about this many guys on the injury list makes you spend other time preparing for other guys. Like, obviously Marcus Cannon's got a legit injury, but the Bears are probably going to spend time trying to watch tape on, you say his name was Waddle?
Adrian Waddle, yeah.
Waddle, to see what they can dig up on him, and then Marcus Cannon plays on Sunday. And I'm like, oh, well, great. So this is not the guy we've been preparing for all week. Or kind of like what the Dolphins did last week was, I heard the NFL's investigating the fact that, like, Tannehill basically didn't practice last week. Osweiler took all the snaps, but, they didn't put Tannehill on the injury list until late, and then Friday or Saturday or Sunday or whatever, the next thing you know, Brock Osweiler starting on Sunday, and it was like the Dolphins pulled off this big ruse or whatever. Like, they knew all along Osweiler was going to start, and then everyone found out literally like 2 hours before the game started.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know anything about the injury report. That's, I think the real one is if the guy doesn't practice on Friday, it's usually an indicator he's not going to play. But again, I think the only one that there's two players that I might not see that are starters, and that's Marcus Cannon, like I said, and there's the defensive tackle Malcolm Brown, who banged his knee up 2 weeks ago. He was a scratch against the Chiefs. He's an interior lineman. He'll be huge against the run.
He's a first round pick, wasn't he?
Yeah, their first round pick in 2016, or 17, excuse me. No, 16. I'm right. There was they have a lot of depth in the defensive line, so he's not a huge loss. They have Danny Shelton, they have Lawrence Guy, they have Trey Flowers, so they're not like a really shallow team in the defensive line. But he's a big run defender guy. Gronk's got an ankle injury, but he'll definitely play. Sonny Michel's dealing with a knee from the preseason. He'll definitely play. There's Josh Gordon in his hamstring, but he seemed to be unaffected by that. And he's getting healthier by the week. So the only guys that really could be real blows to lose the Patriots is Malcolm Brown. And again, if Marcus Cannon can't play, that's a real problem because I don't know what the Patriots are going to have to do to stop Khalil Mack coming off the edge. The Gronk's going to have a smaller day. He'll be much more used as a blocker. They'll bring Dwayne Allen in to chip block me. James Devlin as a fullback. They're going to have to devote a lot of resources to Khalil Mack anyway, regardless. But with Marcus Cannon out, it's a real problem for the Patriots.
How is Josh Gordon doing? Because, I mean, everybody was, kind of freaking out about the Browns finally giving up on him, and of course they trade him to New England. So then it was like, oh, all right, well then I guess the Josh Gordon problem is solved because this is going to be the last stop for Josh Gordon if he screws up, and the Patriots take a chance on you and you blow that one, It's over for you.
For sure.
Because Belichick runs a very tight ship, and there is no messing around, and if Josh Gordon screws up in New England, he's done. No one else will take a chance on him, no matter how talented he is. How has he been for you guys so far?
Yeah, so far, I guess I'd give him like a B- what he's done so far. It's only been a couple of weeks. He's still definitely learning the playbook. Him and Tom Brady are still not quite on the level that he and Edelman are, for example. There are a couple of plays against the Chiefs where Gordon should have maybe come back and saw the hole in the zone and Brady threw it where Gordon should have been and he wasn't there yet. There was a play in the end zone. They had to settle for 3 where there was a hole between 2 defenders. Gordon kept running the crossing route. Brady hit him behind. So there are a couple plays like that where you see that they haven't really seen the defense in the same way they should. But as a hands receiver, as a vertical threat, as a physical presence, he's definitely the most gifted receiver they've had since Randy Moss in that respect. I'm not comparing the two by any stretch, but in terms of just like a physical talent, You don't really see it in the Patriots. Julian Edelman is the kind of the normal kind of guy. These shifty little slot receivers that do well, the Amendolas of the world. They do really well in the system. They don't really have these deep, rangy outside threats the way they do with Josh Gordon. So if he can continue to win the playbook, if he can stay off the weed, and if he and Brady can get on the same page and hit those kind of in and out routes that the Patriots are known so well for, the sky's the limit with that guy. I like where he's going. He's trending upward, but he's still not quite there yet.
All right. Last question for you. You asked me earlier what I would do to beat the Patriots. Now I want you to tell me, how do we beat the Patriots on Sunday? You've watched them, and in all the time that they've won a hell of a lot more than they've lost in the last 20 years or so. What's the key to beating New England?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a crazy secret. The teams that beat New England do it the same way. Brady's got a pretty big Achilles heel, and if you can get pressure on him early, you can hit him early, and if you can rush 3, 4, maybe 5 guys and get pressure without sending a lot of complicated blitzes and making Brady read the hot route, you can get to him. You play press man coverage, you get pressure with your front 4, you hit him hard, and you force him to make some throws that he doesn't want to have to make. Brady will hear footsteps. He will get rattled if he doesn't have time to throw. And so if you can do that and you have a really good defensive line, one of the big mistakes Bill Belichick made was letting Akeem Hicks go. I really don't know why he didn't re-sign that guy. The guy is a phenomenal talent. So you got him. You've got Khalil Mack. You've got
Goldman.
You have a really, really good kind of front 7. Danny Trevathan, I think, is on your team too, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So you've got a lot of talent, and you have the physical tools to only rush 3, 4, 5 guys and get pressure. And one thing you see, I don't know what kind of place. Unfortunately, I've never been to Chicago for a Bears game, Soldier Field, but if it's a loud place where it's hard to communicate at the line, Brady loves to audible at the line and read the defense. And if he can't do that effectively because of the crowd noise, that'll make them solidify and vanillaize their playbook, and that'll cause a problem for them. Because I think that in terms of the secondary, again, the Bears secondary against the Patriots receivers, that's an advantage Patriots. So it's going to be all about getting that front 7 to Brady quickly, making him throw before he's ready, and then he's got a lot of picks this year. He's thrown 6 interceptions already, and a couple of them were not his fault. A couple bounced off receivers' hands against the Colts, but he's thrown a couple of really bad picks. So if you can get him early, get him often, and force him off his game, it'll be hard for him to get back on it, and that's how you beat the Patriots.
And I think you're absolutely right as far as what I was thinking in what I was going to say in my assessment of what the Bears need to do to win the game was, number one, you got to get after Brady. Kind of like that's one of my keys whenever we play the Packers. You got to get after Rodgers. Keep him in the pocket. Don't let him run around. Not exactly a big concern when it comes to Brady because the guy's a tremendous quarterback, not the world's greatest athlete.
No.
Still to this day, I'm sure Brian Urlacher can never live down the fact that Brady juked him out that one time in 2006. I mean, there he is. He's got a beat on Brady. Brady makes this weak-ass juke, and Urlacher goes with it. And next thing you know, Brady's running past him. Like, dude, how did you let that happen? He's like the slowest quarterback in the league, and he blazed past you like he was freaking Usain Bolt or something like that. But, I was thinking that you got to get after Brady, and you have to do it early to get the crowd involved so that they are, screaming at the top of their lungs when the Patriots are on the field. So if the Bears can do something to get the crowd into it early, I really think we do have a really good shot at making it interesting, at least, and not having one of these blowout games like we played in 2010, played in 2014. The game was over at halftime in both instances. I mean, by a lot in both of those games. And the 2010 team was a playoff team. We made it to the NFC title game in 2010. You beat us like 33-7. It was over before the end of the second quarter. And it was just one of those things where it's like, we got to get to Brady. We got to get it early. We got to get the crowd involved early and do something that's going to get us charged up early on in the game so that we can attack the rest of the football game.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you can get a couple of big sacks on Brady, and if you can contain and neutralize James White, who's their receiving back, I think I've said this earlier in the season. I think, in my opinion, as of right now, he is the most important non-Tom Brady offensive player on that field. Brady loves him. He's their check down guy. He's elusive. He's shifty. He's his safety blanket. If you can neutralize James White early and force Brady to look down the field while you get to him, could be a long day for New England. I think it's going to be actually a closer game than everyone people are thinking. I think the Patriots are 3-point favorites right now.
4, I heard, yeah.
4 point. Okay, 4 points the betting line. I think it's going to be a pretty close game. I think it's one of those games that if the Patriots do win, they may pull away late because Brady figures things out eventually.
Sure.
But if Trubisky can hang in there, if he can figure out those complicated defensive looks and not make some mistakes early on and keep it competitive at halftime, it could really go either way.
And to tell you the truth, it's like, obviously I want the Bears to win. I definitely think that we can. But based on how the last 2-3 games against New England have gone, I just want to be in it. Okay? I don't want it to be like, why the hell am I even watching this at the end of it? You know, like the most interesting thing that happened for the Bears in the 2014 matchup was our dickhead outside linebacker Lamar Houston sacking Jimmy Garoppolo in the fourth quarter and then blowing out his knee during his sack celebration.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was literally the most interesting thing that happened in that game for us. Aside from that, Martellus Bennett had an insane touchdown catch. Like, how the hell did he even come down with that kind of catch against you guys? But that was, you know, one highlight in a 51-14 loss or whatever the hell the score was. You know, and then a couple years before, we had a playoff team that was, you know, it was later in the season, like November or something like that. It was a, you know, like 7-3 against 8-2 or something like that. And it didn't even look like that. By halftime, it was already like 31-7 or something like that. So I would much rather have a game like we had against Miami where we're clawing at each other at the end of this thing, and it can happen, and the game can change on one play and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to like, yep, just waiting for this one to end because it's 28-3 or something ridiculous like that. So I want to win. I think we can win, but I just want to be in it at the end. I want us to actually compete with the Patriots this time around.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's be a good game. I think the Bears are not as, I think they're not as good as advertised or not as bad as advertised. And the Patriots are the exact same way. I think they're not as good as advertised right now. They're still figuring it out, and like their losses aren't as bad as people want to paint them as. I think this is kind of a statement game for both teams. And
Sure.
The Patriots are on the road. It's a true road test of a much improved team. And you know, anytime you want to assert your dominance in the league, you go through the Patriots. If you can hang with New England and you can beat New England, that's a big statement you can make and a huge confidence builder. Like if Trubisky can take out Tom Brady, that's going to bode so well for him in the second half of the season. So, yeah, I think the Bears are approaching this the right way and knowing, like, this is kind of the white elephant's the bully in the room, and you got to bring it.
And talk about an overreaction Monday for Bear fans if we beat New England on Sunday.
Oh, man.
Like, that's it. We've done it. We're going to the Super Bowl. We beat the Patriots. Like, okay, calm down. We still got 10 games left. We still got to play the Rams later on this year. That's going to be our real test because they're an NFC opponent that we're probably going to have to see more often. And everything. We still have 5 games left in the division to play later on this year, so let's just calm down. We won a great game. We won a good game against a great team. Let's hold off on the you know, the parade for now. So, but Alec, I appreciate you coming on, man. A great talk. Always enjoy having you on. Where can we find you online? Are you doing a podcast these days?
Yeah, we do. Rich Hill and I do a call. It's very creatively named the Pat's Pulpit podcast.
Okay.
on Pat's Pulpit. Really dug into the creative well for that one.
Sure.
We do that at least once a week, mostly after game days. It comes up on Tuesday or Wednesday of the week after game days. We also do a live YouTube chat on pregame on Sundays or Mondays when the games are on. And you can find me on patspulpit.com, writing articles and talking all things Patriots.
Awesome. Alec, thanks so much for being on the show, man. Hopefully it is a competitive one and everybody comes out healthy.
That sounds great, man. Thanks a lot for having me.
Remember, guys, who you're betting on is just as important as who you are betting with. And that's why I always recommend MyBookie. They've been in business for years, the best reviews online, and they have a mobile site that is easy to use. And don't forget, use the promo code BEARS25 and get an additional $25 in free play on deposits over $100 if you do it after 7 p.m. Eastern time. And on top of it all, they match every deposit dollar for dollar. Use the promo code BEARS25. MyBookie, you play, you win, you get paid. So I want to thank my guest, Alec Shane from Pat's Pulpit on SB Nation. Be sure to check it out. Any Bears content that they might have this week. I think he said their preview episode was already out, so go ahead and check that out. And anything that they have to say on Pat's Pulpit on SB Nation, give that a look as well. So we talked about it with Alec. We asked him, you've already said, you've already asked me what would the Bears, what do I think the Bears are going to do? What should the Bears do to win? And his answer made perfect sense. It's something that I've noticed about Brady over the years, because as a football fan, there's no avoiding Tom Brady because the Patriots on national television about 17 times a season. So you run into a New England game pretty much every single week if you really tried. And actually, you don't even really have to try all that much for it to just happen. And in games, and I'm thinking back to like their unsuccessful playoff runs and things like that, the common tale of those losses has been defenses being able to get after Brady, staying in his face. And it's not so much that Brady gets rattled and does anything like that. It's more so that he starts to feel the pressure even when it's not necessarily coming. If you get after him early on, the clock in his head starts to run a little bit faster, and maybe he makes a throw about a half second before he normally would have, and therefore the window is smaller, and there's a greater chance of it either being knocked incomplete or getting picked off and things like that. And Brady's also a competitor. If you knock the competitor down over and over again, he might get emotional and do something stupid. So getting after Brady, staying in his face, disrupting what he wants to do is definitely a key to success. It might even be the biggest one, because if we can neutralize Brady, you neutralize that entire offense, and then it's just about what the Bears can do on offense. In the last couple of weeks, you had pretty much the entire game against Tampa and that second half against Miami. It's a pretty good offense, and hopefully Allen Robinson will be healthy enough to play on Sunday, and Khalil Mack will be as close to 100% as possibly can be to take the field against the Patriots, and we can be competitive. I mean, you heard me mention to Alec, that's more than anything, just looking at what our last few games against the Patriots have been like. Competitive is a worst case scenario for me. Obviously best case is winning the game, which I absolutely believe we can do. I absolutely believe we can do it. I don't think the Patriots are anything special on defense. The only thing that worries me about their defense is that Belichick is a defensive genius. And even though he's not their defensive coordinator, you best believe he had a hand in game planning that defense and preparing it for the Bears and Trubisky, and basically laying an outline for their own defensive coordinator to battle the Bears on Sunday. He has proven time and time again. They've won so many different ways with so many different players. There's always been a different star in every game, and that's the thing that just, as a football fan, you have to stand back and admire about the Patriots. And I'm not blowing smoke, guys. This is legit. You look at it and, just think about, there's a guy out there who's named Jonas Gray who played in one game for the Patriots, scored 4 touchdowns on Monday Night Football against the Colts. And that following week, he misses a team meeting or something like that. Belichick cuts him. You never hear from him again. But he was good for 4 touchdowns and a blowout win over the Colts one day. And they bring in these guys on these 1-year deals and get the last bit of football out of them. Guys are going to New England, taking pay cuts to be a part of what New England's going to put out there and things like that. So it's amazing what Belichick has done, and like I said, he's done it so many different ways with so many different people. It's there are so many times where the guy that was the star was the last guy you were expecting to be the one to pull the trigger on something, to be the guy that disrupted the game in one form or another. It happens all the time. So that's kind of the wild card for me as far as what does Belichick and company have cooked up for the Bears as far as attacking us on defense and coming after Trubisky? How are they going to scheme against us to try to get a guy free and get after Trubisky and maybe force him to make a mistake or two or what have you? That's the one thing that I'm kind of leery about. And I just want it to be competitive. I really, really do. Because you heard me say, in 2010, they come into town, they kick our ass like 33-7, and that was a playoff team in 2010, a damn good football team we had in 2010. And then 2014, obviously we were a joke. We went 5-11 that year, but we were just coming off a 55-14 loss to the Packers, and then back it up with like a 51-17 loss to New England in both games on the road, mind you, but still. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady made the Bears look ridiculous on back-to-back weeks. And, you heard me mention to Alec, the most exciting thing that happened in that game was Lamar Houston blowing out his ACL after sacking Jimmy Garoppolo in the fourth quarter. He's done this ridiculous sack dance and blew out his ACL when we're down 45-7 or something ridiculous like that in the fourth quarter. God. I mean, it's terrible that he blew out his knee, but how friggin' funny was that, man? Like, there you go, you dumbass. We just signed him to a huge contract, giving him all this money. He hasn't done a goddamn thing all season, gets his first sack in garbage time against the backup quarterback in a game that we're losing by 40. He blows out his knee doing a dance. I mean, it was one of those things, if I wasn't crying, if I wasn't laughing, I'd be crying kind of thing. It was just one of those days against the Patriots. And, being competitive first and foremost is what I want to see on Sunday. If we lose, I want to lose another 31-28 ball game or something like that. Kind of like when the Bears lost in 2006. We went up to New England, and it was a battle. It was a war between two of the best teams in football. The Bears would make it to the Super Bowl. The Patriots would come up just short in the AFC title game, too, obviously, to Peyton Manning and the Colts. I mean, it was the national game of the week, and rightly so. It was an amazing football game back in 2006, and it was like a 22-17 final score or something like that. It was a very close game, hotly contested, and the Bears came up short. That's what I want. If we have to come up short, that's how I want to lose. I want to lose in the game in the fourth quarter, or we're making a comeback and we just come up short or anything like that. I mean, it's the Patriots, for Christ's sake. Losing is a possibility. Will we lose? I don't think so. I just have a feeling about this game, and you guys have heard me say that 1,000 times before, and more times than not, it has worked in our favor. I had a feeling last year against the Steelers that we were going to win this game, and I'll be damned if we didn't win that game. I had a funny feeling about that Carolina game last year, and boom, 2 interceptions from Eddie Jackson, or a fumble recovery and interception. Eddie Jackson, the Bears pull that one off. I mean, it was just crazy. And I kind of have that feeling this Sunday. I don't think the Bears are going to come out and wax the Patriots. It would be awesome if they did, but I just got a feeling it's going to be our day. Hopefully that stat that I pulled out against or with Alex early on in the talk was that I saw that every game the Patriots have played in, all 6 games the home team has won. Well, we're the home team this week, so God help us. Hopefully we can pull that off. And, we'll be wearing better-looking uniforms in much better-looking weather, or we won't be rusty or anything like that. We'll be ready and looking to avenge, bounce back, redeem. That's the word I'm looking for. Redeem ourselves against the Patriots on Sunday. So that's pretty much it, man. We got to get after Brady. And then on offense, it's all about avoiding mistakes. That's going to be key number 1, is avoiding mistakes. Just do what you've been doing. The second half against Miami, do what you were doing against the Buccaneers. Avoid the mistakes. The throw into the end zone, into double coverage, can't do that. Hey, you know what? That was something that just came. I just read something about that the other day. That interception that Trubisky threw. No excuses or anything like that. It was a bad throw at the absolute worst time. But was it Tom Thayer or something like that? He's the color guy, a former Bear great, of course, but he's the radio guy for the Bears, the color commentator, saying that he had a hunch that Trubisky may have lost that safety in the goalpost pad in the middle of the end zone. And it turns out Olin Kreutz on his Twitter account got a screenshot of like a behind the offensive line, like from behind Trubisky, looking, and it's like Trubisky's about to throw the ball, the safety is about to break on the ball, and he is pretty much standing, and they wore all white, the Dolphins did on Sunday, and that pad in the middle of the field was also white. So there is a slight chance, a possibility, what have you, and there's evidence to back it up that that's maybe why Trubisky made that throw, was that he didn't see the defender blending in with the white background on that pad. I mean, how crazy is that? If that's actually the truth, looking at the evidence, it's possible. But how about that? If that was actually what happened, that Trubisky threw the ball because he didn't see him there, literally because he was camouflaged by the pad behind him in the end zone. I mean, this was a throw that was in the end zone, so he may have just been standing a few feet in front of it, blending right into it. So I thought that was really interesting when I saw that. Obviously, again, no excuse. He threw into double coverage, but he very well may have made that throw because he didn't see the guy because he was blended into that white pad behind him. How funny is that? So, but anyway, we got to avoid stuff like that. Fumbling at the goal line, and, if what I mentioned to Alec, getting off to a fast start. If we start with the football, take it right down the field and put it in the end zone, then the fans in Soldier Field will definitely be into the game. And then God forbid we come out and send the Patriots to the sideline on a 3-and-out or something like that. That's going to pump up the fan base even more. And that's what we need to do. Get after Brady, maybe get a sack on that first drive, put the first one in the end zone, or at least come away with some points, get a lead early on New England, and then stay after them throughout the football game. I mean, hopefully the defense is chomping at the bit to get out there and get after him. Akeem Hicks, maybe he's wanting some revenge on a team that didn't think he was good enough and gave him away to the Saints before he came to Chicago, or was it the other way around? Either way, he was we got him from New England, so he went from New Orleans to New England. But still, maybe he's looking to get after New England to kind of show them what they missed out on by letting him go after the 2015 season. So, and then just the defense as a whole. 0 sacks last week, poor tackling, just a very bad performance on their part, looking to rebound and to bounce back from that. And hopefully Brady and company will be their punching bag. I would love to see the Bears wax the Patriots on Sunday. Can't wait to see it. So anyway, really looking forward to this game, and we'll be back on Monday. We'll be back on Monday to talk about all of it. The good, the bad, the ugly. Will it be a victory Monday, or will it be that happened kind of Monday as we get ready for the Jets? We'll have to wait and see. So come on back Monday, and until then, my name is Larry D, and this has been the Bears Talk Underground.